Hey, welcome everybody. This is the Tom and James Friday podcast. And James, as usual, we have exciting times. Listen to this, James. President Donald Trump was nominated by someone over in Norway who also happens to be involved with NATO for the Nobel Peace Prize. And then we have this report that has come out from the UN. The UN has decided that coronavirus had nothing to do with China, but everything to do with climate change and the way that people still drive their SUVs and are destroying everything. And apparently that's why we have climate change. That's why we have coronavirus. And then it appears to me that the Democrat Party is doing everything they can to announce that there will be a coup on the Trump presidency if Trump wins the election. It's like they're announcing this is what we're going to do. Zuckerberg comes out the other day and he says, listen, it shouldn't surprise any of you at all that it could take several weeks before we even know who really won. And you hear about the different things that are being reported from different left-wing news agencies. So I look at all these things, and there's a lot more also, and we're going to get into them. James, we have before we go anywhere, on November 8th, it's a Sunday. We have a prophecy conference, don't we? And this is going to be an audience and everything. That's the Sunday after the election. This is going to be exciting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conference. And, you know, we're going to address things as they are. This is an interesting thing. You know, you look at the correlation of all the things happening on the national scene. You talk about the things that are happening in the news, all the craziness of what's happening right now in society as we sit. And it makes you recognize, it really makes you realize the fact that we as Christians, as the guardians of freedom, we've had this conversation many, many times, we need to continue to turn it up. We've got to take a stand for that which is righteous. You've been saying it for, my goodness, probably the better part of a year, that all of this is going to come down to some kind of a climate change-based control issue. We knew that that was going to happen. We've both been talking about the fact that climate change has been a subject that really they've never really cared about the issue of climate change, Tommy. I mean, if you really think about it, climate change to them has always been a subject that's a joke. They say, hey, we're really worried about the carbon footprint that you leave, yet they'll get on a private jet and go anywhere they want in the world. Cow patties are dangerous. They're horribly, horribly dangerous. Yet the entourage that you carry with you alone everywhere you go does far beyond any kind of damage that some supposed cow patty ends up doing. I mean, you just think about the kind of hypocrisy and lies that you see. We saw this again. I mean, look, I don't have to go very far. I mean, let's just go further north with Nancy Pelosi. You know, my goodness, wear a mask. You people are evil who don't wear one. You need to be considerate. These people who are my age could die. Don't you understand? They could die. And then you see the young guy kind of prancing around and he's, you know, taking care of Nancy Pelosi's hair, and she has absolutely no mask on, no mask anywhere near her. She's clearly not worried. And then her answer when she gets asked, hey, how's everything going? I got set up. It's the building or it's the store owner who did all this. She set me up, and look at me. It's, you know, it's her fault. It's not my fault, which is the typical thing that the Democratic Party does, the hard left. This is exactly what they do. And yet she's not taking any responsibility. Now, here's my question. If you can't take responsibility to do the very things that you say the rest of the people should do, why should I ever trust you for anything else? How am I going to trust you to manage our economy? How am I going to trust you to take care of our the precious, wonderful, beautiful religious freedom that we carry? How am I going to trust you to guard that when you literally always, every single time say, do as I say and not as I do? And I'll tell you why she says, do as I say, not as I do. And all of them say, do as I say and not as I do, because they all know that what they say is the most obscene, ridiculous, absurd, insane, nefarious, foolish thing that they could ever say or do. It's crazy. They are nothing other than a bunch of kooks.
Yeah, you look at this. So, no, you're right, and you look at this, you think, okay, the hypocrisy is over the top. Then she says that she didn't even. I heard she said she didn't even know there was a law or any type of requirement that businesses were closed and she had to wear a mask. That's her other excuse because this thing isn't going away. And then we have what's his name over in New York that is blaming Trump. He's blaming Trump for all of the violence and how New York has been absolutely just wrecked by everything going on. 54% in decline in commercial real estate in New York City. And it's all Trump's fault because of coronavirus and the handling of everything that's going on. Hey, James, at the conference, just want to bring this up against November 8th. It's a Sunday. You're speaking in the morning. Don Stewart's going to be with us. Of course, I'll be there. And I think, did Andy Woods confirm with you yet?
I'm a fool. I did not call him yet. I got to do that. So I got to call him. I'll call him as soon as we get off this call. I'm sure Andy will do it.
Yeah, I'm sure Andy will do it. We'll see what else we have in the lineup, but it's going to be an exciting time. It's going to be absolutely free. But man, it is the Sunday after the election, so I'm thinking we're going to have an awful lot of things to talk about. So here's this.
Can I ask you this?
Yes.
Can I? Because I really want to get clarity because you just struck a nerve, another nerve.
Oh no!
You
I do that.
News articles that are designed to light me up. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm really good at doing that.
Is this de Blasio that's saying this, or is this?
I think it's Como. I think it was Como who said it. So, was Como the one that was responsible for the sending COVID patients to the convalescent care facilities?
Yeah, it was him. It was Cuomo. Yes.
Yeah, look at that.
You don't have to confirm that. I'm telling you, he's the one. He's the one that executed them.
And then he's saying that this whole thing is Trump's fault.
Yeah, he's the executioner of New York.
So, yeah, unbelievable. But we both had Charlie Kirk out to our churches recently. That illustration Charlie Kirk gave about the double speak not being just a lie. What did he use? I think he's talking about you get caught with cookies on your face. Or somebody gets caught with cookies. You've been eating cookies. They got the crumbs all over. You go in and you say you ate cookies, and they say I didn't eat any cookies. Say you have crumbs all over your face. I didn't eat the cookies. You ate the cookies. That's Nancy Pelosi at the salon. That is what Como is doing. It is your fault. It's not my fault that my city's burned down. It's not my fault that we're defunding the police. It is your fault. It's the same thing that's happening right now. Pelosi blaming everybody else. It's not my fault. It's the hairdresser's fault. It's the hair salon owner's fault.
Here's a great word to describe all of them. It's a great word. You ready? Cowards. They're absolute cowards. And it's sad to say that, but it's absolutely true. It's a shame when you take a moment to consider how hypocritical many of these people are. I mean, I truthfully, in my heart of hearts, I wonder what would happen if we ran our churches this way. What would happen if anybody, no matter what line of work they're in, did what these people did in their line of work? They would all get fired. And not only get fired, they would probably be criminally or civilly prosecuted. I mean, if you really think about it, everything that they do is all based on the fact that their whole lives they've been in jobs like this with no accountability, no structure. I mean, look at this. In the time when the whole world, literally, the whole world is in financial crisis. In a time where the United States of America is going through the worst time it has ever gone through economically or financially based on this Chinese Communist Party virus. Based on all of that, during that time, what does the House do? The House says, we're going home.
Yeah,
we're going to go home and we're going to hang out in our comfortable seats. We're not, session is over. We're not going to do any of what they're requesting. We're not going to follow. I mean, it's crazy. You look at what's been happening in the White House lately. The speaker says, we want this. The White House says, we'll concede. We'll give you more than what you're asking for education. Okay, great. And then they say, sorry, that's not enough.
Yeah.
And it's this back and forth. And they're saying, oh, well, the White House isn't being cooperative. The White House doesn't care. They're saying Donald Trump needs to show up and actually do some negotiating himself. And this is, by the way, this is Joe Biden, the guy who can't even remember Donald Trump's name sometimes, who's saying that. I mean, come on. Yeah. And then watch this. Think this through for 1 second, Tom. this story that supposedly happened in 2018 when Trump called some of these dead soldiers losers, right? And if you heard that story, it's a total fabrication. It's a lie. One of the guys that hates Donald Trump more than even some of the leftists, right? The former ambassador, Bolton, he actually defended Trump. He even said, no, Trump wouldn't have said that. I didn't hear him say any such thing. I was there. There's no way. But these stories that are based on the infamous, well, I've got a top secret informant, the infinite confidential informant type thing. Those stories are going to come out, and they're going to come out more and more and more and more as we get closer and closer and closer to the election. Why? Because there's one reason, and there's no other reason other than that. It is pure evil seeking to overtake righteousness. That's exactly what's going on. And if we would get the characters out of the picture and just think about it on the basis of Christian principles, think about it on the basis of what the Bible teaches us, this is a no-brainer. We should be getting involved. We should be really attacking this stuff.
Yeah, we absolutely should be. And I'm going to come back to that in just a second, because you had a fireside chat with Rob McCoy just the other day, and I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you a little bit about that. Let me read this to you first, though, before we go there. And by the way, it was confirmed. Chris got the info. It was Como who is blaming this on. It was blaming COVID-19 on Trump. So there you have. And speaking of Congress not meeting, I bet Nancy Pelosi does another ice cream show from her freezer. Remember that?
Gracious. That is
like
rich, man.
Unbelievable.
That is rich.
It is unbelievable. It's unbelievable that people actually vote for these people. That's just shocking. So here's this. Here's this with the Nobel Peace Prize. President Trump, this is from the New York Post, has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for helping broker a peace deal between Israel and the UAE. Then it mentions the person's name. He's a member, Christian Tybring-Gjedde, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, a member of the Norwegian parliament and chairman, get this, of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. And so he nominated Trump. Well, I'll tell you a couple of things that are shocking. That Bolton actually is standing up for Trump. That totally shocks me. You mentioned that already. The Atlantic, I've read, is trying to unwind that false story that they put out there about Trump because it's causing them issues. But and by the way, and now we have this Trump being nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And then I think of all these different things that are happening with this military report, and you think, is the left trying to get the military to go against Trump? I'm thinking that is actually what is happening, especially when you look, Zuckerberg saying the election the results should be delayed. It's only, makes sense. You keep hearing they're going to delay this, that they're not going to concede the election. Clinton's getting in there saying, don't concede the election, Uncle Joe or whatever. And you start putting all of these things together, and then you throw in the Nobel Peace Prize, and you think, what an interesting time.
It's a joke. I think about all of this, and I look at what's going on, and it's so blatantly obvious what is good and what is evil. And yet it's so amazing to me that people continue to embrace that which is evil instead of that which is good. And, this coup d'etat talk, this really started with Hillary Clinton just a few days ago. I think it was a few days ago, maybe a week ago.
About a week ago.
She said, hey, don't concede, Sleepy Joe. Don't concede. If something happens, don't concede. Well, here's my prayer. Let me just simply say this. My prayer is that every single person that wants to vote for Trump does it, and so many people come out that the map is just all red. So that even if the crazy attorneys from the DCCC and from the DNC position themselves all over the states, they'll lose. They won't even come close. It'll be so undisputable that Joe's going to have to concede. He's going to have to. Once he realizes that he lost, because you'll probably look at the red map and go, we won, it's all red, I knew we would win. It's probably the case,
Yeah, it probably is the case. But you look at these things, and then Trump is nominated with Nobel Peace Prize. What do you think the chances are? I don't even know why I should ask you this. Of Trump actually getting the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean,
making me cough.
Yasser Arafat got it one time, didn't he? Didn't Yasser Arafat? And then
it's ridiculous.
Obama did. I think before he was actually inaugurated, he got it, didn't he?
That's right. He got it for becoming the president, basically.
And if I remember correctly, didn't Hitler actually get it too? Time Magazine, I think it was, or Newsweek, I think it was Time Magazine, said that Hitler was a man of the year back in like 1930, whatever it was. Wow. I better look that up. Hey, can you fact check me real quick? They're going to fact check me on that one. But you look at these things. So what are the chances of Trump winning the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, come on. I mean, we know the answer.
Was that just a stupid question? That was a stupid question.
I'm just telling you, we know the answer.
Yeah, we do know the answer. Okay, here's this. The entire Rochester, New York police command quits after the riots. And every single police officer I know, sheriff, police, whatever different levels, different counties, different cities, different cops I know are so discouraged. Every single one of them has told me they are considering either resigning or retiring, depending on where they are. And I think this is also part of the left's plan, because they get all the good cops to quit. Then guess what? You can fill up those vacancies with the
anarchists.
Exactly. The brown shirts of Hitler type of people.
Yeah. It's absolutely true. I think the general hatred for law enforcement in this country, the perceived hatred for law enforcement. So let me just tell you this. Those that hate law enforcement are the minority. They're the ones that believe into the brainwashed lie. I think most communities not only appreciate and want law enforcement around them, they love law enforcement officers. I know that for a fact. I think that oftentimes that's not shown in the media, and the media is completely irresponsible about how they handle incidents that involve law enforcement officers actually doing their job. There was a recent shooting that got caught on tape from a dash cam, and it was the media dubbed it an unjustifiable shooting of a young unarmed black man. Okay. Now, let me just tell you how insanely ludicrous these people who are the enemy of the state are. Okay. Yes. And I'm calling the media that. I believe that statement. Okay. They are horrendous people. They are not. There are some great folks out there that are reporters that are doing a great job, but the mainstream, you're talking about the Communist Nationalistic Network and the MSLSD, all those people. You want to talk about insanity with respect to mainstream media. Let me tell you this. They actually called it an unjustifiable shooting of an unarmed black man. And when the police department released the dash cams, you ready? Or the body cams, just a few hours later, you know what it actually showed? And it shows you how deceiving a video can be from a distance. It actually showed that same innocent, shy, unarmed black man pulling out his weapon and firing his weapon within 2 feet of a police officer in the direction of his face. And he misses, and then he gets himself killed. And that's correct. He should have been killed. But yet, it was an unjustifiable shooting. Black Lives Matter, Inc. shows up. The anarchists show up. All the other terrorists basically show up. Antifa. They literally burned down the town within hours, only to find out that it was completely justifiable. And then the media, after they all leave, after Black Lives Matter Inc. leaves, after all these other people leave, the media doesn't even go back and say, we got it wrong.
They won't even correct anything. I think they just want to keep up the narrative. Right. Of whether it's this anarchy. Listen, out of the chaos, they can bring about the change that they want, and the change that they want is get rid of America the way that it is. Hence, even the removing of the statues and changing the history books, rewriting school curriculum, all of these things, that's the direction they're going with this.
They hate the United States of America, Tommy. It's really simple. They hate the USA.
Yeah. It's a terrible thing that's happening. By the way, Hitler appeared on the cover of Time magazine several times, but This says, most famously, on January 2, 1939, Time magazine named him Man of the Year.
Holy smokes. Wow.
Did you see that one, Chris? Time magazine named him Man of the Year. I thought I heard that, but it wasn't the Nobel Peace Prize. I think somebody nominated him for that, but that obviously didn't work out. But still, you have people that the world celebrate. Yasser Arafat, like we said. You have Hitler, Man of the Year. You look at this stuff, you go, what a world that we live in. We have, everything is upside down. Isaiah talks about the time when right would be wrong and wrong would be right. We live in that time, but yet, would I be right to say this, James, that this is only going to get worse this way? And here's a question I have for you, because unbelievable, we're almost out of time already. No, we got a few more minutes. Listen, are we in the tribulation period? Because I get these emails all the time. People are telling me, look at all of the things that have gone wrong. We're in the tribulation period. You better look out.
Yeah, most definitely not. We're most definitely not in the tribulation. The Bible tells us what the tribulation is going to look like, and the tribulation is going to be ugly, especially the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation is going to be miserable for all the earth. First of all, we know the tribulation isn't going to come, and it's very interesting. You were on the radio with me in place of Don Stewart for our Countdown to Eternity radio show, and you talked about this, and one of the very first points that you made, which I would gladly agree with, is the statement in which you said, you made it very, very clear. You said, look, there's no way we could be in the tribulation right now, because if we were, then that would mean there would be 25% of the population already dead. Okay, so we'd have 2 billion people already gone right now, and it's probably, that number is probably closer to 3, believe it or not. But you're right, 2 billion people would be already gone. And then when you go back and you look at a passage like 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. That tells us something very, very clear. It says, listen, the Antichrist can't even be made known. The final Antichrist won't even be made known to all of mankind until the church is raptured. That's basically what he says. And then when the church is raptured, that still doesn't constitute the beginning of the tribulation. What will constitute the beginning of the tribulation is the execution of what Daniel 9:27 says when we talk about him coming in and confirming that which is literally making strong that which already exists. These covenants that have existed, he's going to make them strong. And then that, in essence, is going to begin the 70th week of Daniel. It's going to begin that last, 7 years that everybody's been talking about, what we read about in the book of Revelation, and so on and so forth. And so we are most definitely not in the tribulation, and we can rest easy to know that we'll never be in the tribulation, because God's going to take us up before that time.
Amen. There's a lot of people out there right now that need encouragement. They're going to be watching this. You obviously are talking about the rapture there. We're not going to go through the tribulation. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now think of this too. In the passage you quoted, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, there the Bible also talks about the one who restrains. And I believe that's speaking of the Holy Spirit working through the lives of believers.
That's right. That's
Imagine
exactly right.
if this is, and it's really speaking of restraining evil and lawlessness. So if you look, you go, okay, after the rapture takes place, you don't have that restraining force of the Holy Spirit working through the believers anymore. Can you imagine, or have you imagined how much worse things will actually get? People are clueless on how bad it will get during the tribulation.
Yeah, they got no idea how bad it's going to be. It's nothing like what it is right now. What it is right now is a walk in the park. It's literally a trip to Disneyland. It is nothing compared to what we're going to end up seeing during the days of the tribulation. And I think that this is an important thing to note, because we know that Jesus Christ is coming soon. So we know that the rapture is going to be coming sooner than we think, probably in this generation. And I think it's the most compelling reason why we need to get aggressive and care about what's going on in our nation.
Amen.
And take a stand for righteousness, vote for the right people, and do the right thing. It's why we need to be very open and vocal, because when the Lord comes back for me, I want him to see me speaking out against these evils. I want him to see me standing for righteousness. I want him to see that I cared about our nation. I want him to see that I did everything that I could to use the voice that God's given me to make sure that people are making the right decisions. I do not want to be caught riding dirty. I'll tell you that right now.
Amen. We are never told when you think that the Lord is returning, just kick back and don't do anything. In fact, when you look at 2 Peter, it should, as we hasten the Lord's coming, it should spur us on toward love, toward works, towards holiness and righteousness, and it should make us mission-minded, doing that much more, being faithful to be found. Listen, the Lord gives us the gifts that he gives us to be able to go out there and proclaim his good news, primarily above everything else. It's about proclaim the good news of the gospel. But there are those who bury their talents. Listen, the Lord's going to return and say, you wicked servant. I'm going to ask you a question. You can put all this into context. You can correct any of that if you think I'm wrong in it. But, me, I think I'm right. But you met with Rob McCoy this week. Rob McCoy, for any of our viewers who don't know who he is, he's pastor up in Ventura County. He's been like the tip of the spear. Him and the pastor up in Santa Clara have been the tips of the spear, leading the charge to keep the churches open. Rob's been to court. Rob has been under all kinds of heat. The most heat he catches is from other churches. Tell us a little bit about your fire. It was an actual fireside chat that people can pick up on YouTube also, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've talked about this. Jack Hibbs really is the one in many ways who started taking the first sets of criticisms. He is the overall tip of the spear is what I'd like to say. He's the one that even from many years ago was in the middle of explaining to people how important it is to get involved in the political arena and the political process and so on and so forth.
Agreed.
But the condemnation that is coming to him and many other people, to people like me, oftentimes to people like you, is if Jesus Christ is coming back soon, then you have no business doing anything other than preaching the gospel. Pastors should not get involved in politics, and you, pastor, are sinning if you get involved in speaking about political issues, because that is not your call and that is not your role. And to that, here's the question that I would ask to anybody who would say that. And it's a very, very important question. It's this: what other part of my life do you want me to compartmentalize away from the Lord? I mean, seriously.
What a great question.
You answer the question. What other part of my life do you want me to compartmentalize from the Lord? What other areas am I not allowed to talk about? And I've even heard people say this. Well, you really shouldn't be talking about abortion because it's part of God's sovereign will. Are you out of your dang mind?
Yeah, are
you absolutely crazy? So let me ask you this. So your little baby girl has a baby. She's pregnant. And some man enters into your house and convinces your baby girl, the same man who impregnated her, convinces your baby girl to have an abortion. What are you going to say, man? What are you going to say, father of the house? Are you going to say, well, let's let God be sovereign? This is a political issue. This is not anything I should be speaking up. Woe to you. You've got blood on your hands if you were going to do that. And let me tell you something. If you're anywhere near half a man, you would never do that. You would fight like crazy. You would probably have to have yourself restrained because you'd probably kill the guy that came into your house and did that and encouraged your grandchild to be murdered.
Yeah.
You would never do it. You would never stand up for it. So what's the difference between not standing up for it in church and standing up for it in your own home? It's obscene. Yeah. It's hypocritical. At best, it's hypocritical.
Yeah, it is. And then with Rob, I look at this, and you had mentioned to me that in your conversation it came up, I don't know if this part was recorded and went on YouTube, but something about a lot of the pastors that Rob is catching heat from are pastors that believe in premillennial eschatology, the study of end times, and they are also pre-trib rapture, and they believe that he shouldn't be open and he shouldn't be talking about these things. That makes absolutely no sense to me at all. It should be those people that should be leading this charge.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's gotten to the point where it's so unbelievably out of control amongst these guys that it's now I'm wiser and holier than you, and you shouldn't be getting yourself dirty involved in this, because all the people back in the day never did that kind of thing. They're saying, oh, Billy Graham never did that kind of thing. Oh, Pastor Chuck never did that kind of thing. I just heard a Pastor Chuck recording where he was slamming Bill Clinton. I mean, literally ripping him anew. I mean, completely slamming him. Oh, Pastor Chuck got too political there. Everybody's going to leave the church now. What?
Yeah.
We should be speaking
the truth
and standing up for righteousness.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do.
Regardless of how many people are in your seats, and regardless of the tithing that's coming in or not coming in, look, we give an account to the Lord on that day. That's right. And you look, you go, man, the days that we live in are just unbelievable, but we are not in the tribulation yet, and people need to be ready. James, we are out of time. We've already gone over 30 minutes. Man, this went by fast.
Yes, sir, it did.
So again, November 8th, we have a prophecy conference. We will let you know more about that. And James, you have your Instagram, you have your YouTube. Tell all of our viewers about that, where they can find you.
Instagram is at James Cadiz. Our YouTube is Calvary Chapel Signal Hill. And there also is a YouTube that we have that we post up only exclusively anything me and Tom do together. It's called Real Hope with Tom and James. And that's also a really, really great YouTube if you want to go to, if you just want to find stuff that me and Tom do together. Most of you are looking for Tom's stuff alone. So for that, you'd want to go to Hope for Our Times. That's a great YouTube channel. And hopeforourtimes.com. It's an amazing website. A lot of great news that gets kept up, and Tom and his team work really hard to make sure you guys are getting accurate information, which is a blessing. And even fact checking me right on the spot, which is really good. Hey, listen, I want to let everybody know this also. This Sunday evening at 4 p.m., I'm going to do a live prophecy update from Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9 is the covenant that James was talking about, where Antichrist confirms a covenant with the many, and we're going to be looking at that. So it's going to be exciting. That's this Sunday at 4 o'clock. I don't have a guest this Sunday night. It is me by myself. And man, are we going to have a lot of things to talk about. It will be live on the Hope for Our Times YouTube channel and also on my Facebook. James, it's, as always, great having you with me today. I know we went a few minutes over, but you know, I think it was worth it. I'm pretty confident everybody appreciated it. Thanks, bro. Love you, man. All right. Love you too. God bless you. Talk to you later. Okay. Bye.